Participants, lovely. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hope everyone's doing well.
Hello.
Everyone looks pretty fresh, well rested. Hi, Courtney, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing super well. Hi, Patricia. Dr. Arnold Alexander, how are you? Stephanie?
Good, how are you?
Doing really well. I'm waiting for Latasha. I think she'll be participating. She has some information to share, as well as Courtney, regarding the steering committee updated notes. As you are keenly aware, we decided to change the first agenda to something I think would certainly take priority. So once Latasha gets on board, I'm going to certainly release this hosting opportunity to Courtney and to Latasha. This meeting is being recorded, so anyone who was thinking about taking notes, what I can do for you instead is just send you a copy of the recording, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
Yes. So as we wait for a few other members to join, I'm going to grab me a cup of orange juice and I'll be back.
Okay.
You gotta have snacks nearby for a 2-hour call.
I'm gonna scoot away and grab a couple of snacks too. I've been on 4 meetings so far this morning, and I'm just like
Whoa.
meeting out. I mean, I'm at the point where I was like, what is my name? And it's so funny because one of my last meetings, I had a phone call. And then I had a meeting and then I had a phone call. So I ran to the phone call and I put on another set of headsets. Then I went to the meeting. And because I still had the headsets from the phone call on, and I couldn't hear them at the meeting, kept saying, my audio isn't working, my audio isn't working. So I realized, oh man, it's one of those Zooming days today. So I'm gonna run and grab something too. I'll be right back,
All right,
folks.
sounds great.
Okay.
Dr. Arnold, I had a burning question for you. Me and my cohort, Mr. Matt, who works at Cascade Middle School, we've conducted several of the COVID-19 intake response forms. I think we're up to around maybe 30 that have been submitted. Is it possible for us to be able to get a copy of those that have been submitted?
Yes.
That would be super good.
I just need to know the program. Okay. And I can select those out.
All right. I think there's some really valuable information on that. And once you hit submit, there's no way for you to filter that back into your inbox. So we rely upon your generosity to be able to support that for us. We have a student success team with the Cascade principal and vice principal, as well as the dean of students and all their counselors. And they would be happy to know that we've conducted that kind of survey so that they're not overdoing their resources as well. I mean, it's okay for redundancy, but I think this will help us make sure that we don't provide too many service for one person.
So it's going to be under Unleash the Brilliance.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And if memory serves, I think we should have at least 29 submitted to date.
Okay. I'll check by the program name and.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
To you directly?
Please do. Yes.
Okay. Oh.
Hey, Arnold.
Yes.
One of the topics that because we're going to cover like what we covered at the steering committee pretty much, but one of those topics that that's on the list is the consulting hours, and I honestly don't remember all the information about that. So would you mind sharing that with everybody when that time comes?
Sure.
Okay.
I can do that.
Yeah, thanks, Courtney.
And then anyone else who's on the steering committee, because I know we have several members in the cohort 4 that are on the steering committee. If you guys could jump in with your viewpoints or your information as well, just because I am only one person and I, can only pick up so much. So if you guys have anything to add when we talk about the things that we talked about during steering committee, or if I missed anything, please jump in and help me out.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was just trying to figure out where the link was. This is Ayan Ismail with Bridging Cultural Gaps. And finally, I went to base camp and got it. So
Good.
sorry for the few minutes that I was.
No worries. We're still waiting for a few more too.
Right on.
Good time to grab some coffee or some orange juice like myself, cup of water.
Coffee.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, there she is. Hi, Latasha.
Hi,
So
you
glad
guys.
to see you.
Okay, so you guys, I know you guys didn't start yet.
No,
Oh,
we're
right.
still waiting for a few more people.
Yes, because Reverend James is going to start sitting in for me.
Okay.
He's going to start coming in on the cohort meetings, and he stepped away for a second, so I'm gonna step in for now until he comes.
Okay.
Is that okay, you guys?
Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you.
Hey, Stephanie. Oops. Stephanie, are you there? Or she's
Yes, I am now.
Hi,
Are you-
everyone. Hi, Leon.
Are you on your phone or are you
I'm on my laptop. Oops.
Hey, Sharon, I just want to call out and say thank you so much for the information you've been sharing on Basecamp. And Courtney, thank you for checking on in also. Appreciate it very
I'm sorry.
much.
I'm sorry, I just missed that. I had a phone call. What was that?
I was just thanking you for your input on Basecamp. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You're welcome. Sharon, are you talking to us?
I can't hear you, Sharon.
During this call, I'm going to have to step out for a few minutes for a delivery that I'm expecting. Not sure exactly when it's coming, but I should be right back afterwards. So just letting you know ahead of time.
Okay, thank you.
T-shirts for our peer mediators. Thanks, Sharon.
Are you getting a delivery from like Prime or Amazon?
No, I'm getting a delivery from the designer of the T-shirts that our peer mediators design T-shirts, and the person who works at the school, Ms. Keisha Beard, she has her designing company. So she made T-shirts with each person's name on the sleeve, and she's completed them, and we were hoping to give them out at a group meeting, but we're gonna have to figure a different delivery.
Oh, that's super exciting. I know Keisha very well. We've done some presentations together. She's a wonderful singer and performer.
Yeah.
She rocks. As a matter of fact, she invited me to meet some of the players at the Tukwila School District. I served there for about a good year at Foster High School.
Nice.
To her blessing. So I met Nichelle and also a few other wonderful people. Actually, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. We're so grateful to have them on our team. It's
good. Well deserved. The reason I asked you about your delivery was because I had a misfortune with USPS, who on my birthday, which was last Saturday, I was expecting my birthday present, and apparently they had sent it to the wrong address. So I had to scurry to all the post offices to figure out where it was at. And they're thinking they're sending it back to sender. I'm hoping they can find it.
Oh, you're still looking for it.
Oh, I'm still looking for it. I was at the post office for about an hour today, waiting for them to try to find my package in their cornucopia of packages. So when they came back out, they just said, "We'll take your number down, Mr. Dorsey. We're so sorry. Happy belated birthday. We'll find that package for you." Yeah, it looks like packages are having their own cumbersome situations with getting to people properly and on time.
Do we have everybody here so we could get started?
We have 11 participants. Courtney, if you like, we could just jump on in. We do have a recording, so they'll be able to be up to speed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how you wanted to run today's session. I didn't know if you still wanted to do your agenda items too.
I personally came to the conclusion that we can always do that at some other time. I believe that the steering committee has a lot of valuable input, and I want to make sure that I absorb it all. So I decided to align or to regulate this meeting to just give you a free-for-all, just giving us all the information we need to be able to manage this COVID-19 crisis, and most importantly, how we connect and relate to our families. So
Okay.
Phil, please.
Okay. Okay. So I didn't necessarily mean to like take over your day to facilitate. The reason that came up is because during the steering committee, we talked extensively around what the cohort meetings are supposed to be for and how important they are now.
Right.
And I think I can only speak to my own experience, but I think for cohort 4, one of the main issues is that we have had kind of like a misunderstanding about what it is, or not really a full understanding, not misunderstanding, but like a full understanding of what we're supposed to be doing. And that was intentional in the beginning because they wanted each cohort to to be, what's the word, autonomous, and to have, I can't think of the word, but basically to kind of build our own thing, right?
Right.
However, in doing that, I think it also led to a lot of confusion around what this was supposed to be for. And so during some cohorts are like really far along with how they're doing things and as they work together and all of that. And then other cohorts are kind of more like loosely put together, haven't really met that often. And I think we're kind of more on that spectrum. However, last meeting was awesome, and I loved that we were all here and we were all present, and that we all got to engage and kind of get to know each other more. And so this session, I wanted to, I guess, just talk about what they talked about in the steering committee, which was that, one, the cohort meetings are pretty much mandatory now. So it needs to be at least one person from each organization. It doesn't have to be your whole team, but at least one person from each organization should be present. And that this is supposed to be a time for us to kind of go over, I mean, a good practice is to go over anything that was given out in email or put on Basecamp from like Yolanda, MPHI, Julia, any of that stuff, kind of talking about any of the ups and downs that we're having, and to support each other through those processes, and then also kind of come together and figure out some ways to work together as well. And so, but this is definitely like a place where we can kind of solve a lot of our issues and have a time to kind of answer questions and about what's going on as far as Terp and BSK goes.
That sounds great. And let me assure you, Courtney, I do not feel imposed upon or encroached upon. I'm a systems person. I believe in best practices. And if this can help us jumpstart to make sure that we're in alignment with best practices, then I'm glad about that.
Okay. I also wasn't completely, I'm just going to put out there, I wasn't completely prepared to completely facilitate the meeting today. So that's why I'm asking for some assistance from the rest of the steering committee too, please. But so before we even start though, it would be nice to know like what everybody's been doing. So I want to be cognizant of our time, right? This is a really long meeting, and I do want to make sure that we have time to get some of the important information out there and have time to answer questions. And we do have Dr. Arnold Alexander on the line too, so he can speak to the MPHI stuff, which is fantastic. Thank you for joining us. And then yeah, we can kind of help each other out. But I think it's important to always do a check-in and see who's here and what's been going on. So this is a check-in that we do with our students sometimes, which is just providing a rose and a thorn, right? So like if we just did that so a rose would be something that's good, and then a thorn is something that maybe is a struggle or a challenge. If we just each speak to one rose and one thorn that's been going on right now, and maybe a challenge that we might be actually asking for some input in, if we wanted to, or a challenge that maybe is like a technical challenge that maybe somebody in this cohort has an answer to, or maybe it's just something that we've all been struggling with. I'm not, it doesn't matter, but yeah. And so as far as a rose go, and I guess I'm asking in relation to our organization, right?
And just to tag on with Courtney, the celebrations to Miss Courtney, and the celebrations that any of you guys have had too.
Can you say that one more time, Latasha? I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Everything that Miss Courtney said, and just to add one little piece to it is also you can talk about any celebrations and what worked for you guys as well. Yeah. Go ahead, Miss Courtney.
Yeah, so I think that would be kind of like the rose, we can call it celebration, rose, whatever, right? But both being that, yeah, I think that's really important, is to celebrate each other and celebrate ourselves and what we're doing, because right now we're managing a pandemic, right? Like a national pandemic.
Yeah.
My mom reminded me the other day when I was trying to explain how I'm trying to help my family and work from home, and she stopped me and she said, we need to quit saying that we're working from home, because we're not just working from home, we're all trying to manage a pandemic, like ourselves and our families in the middle of a national pandemic, right? So it's not the same as just working from home. So I don't necessarily want to go first. I'd like to hear what other people have to say if they're up for it. Is anybody up to start?
I think that's fair enough. Since I was assigned to be the host, I think it would be right for me to get started. So
okay.
I'll take the heat off everybody else and launch right in. So let me unpack to you, I think, one of the best celebrations, one of the best advantages that Unleash Your Brilliance has had, particularly dealing with both not just Cascade Middle School, where Mr. Matt and I find ourselves serving primarily. As you're keenly aware, Patricia Baird, who is hosting and managing Evergreen Elementary, is doing a superior job. We focus, just real quickly, on equity. We wanted to figure out how we can get our teachers to really understand equity from a different lens without, yes, Patricia?
Hazelwood, not Evergreen.
I'm sorry, I meant to say Hazelwood. Thank you, I stand corrected. We just wanted to focus on what could we do that would be a little different in addressing the elephant in the room without being mean to the elephant. And Mr. Matt and I found that we were able to address that and get some super solid support from many of our white teachers who wanted to hear something a little bit different that had a positive effect in terms of our future collaboration, but most importantly, demonstrating compassion and respect for all parties involved. So that was a big win to see that we were able to really understand equity from a different voice, from a different proposition. It worked really well. I can share some emails that really solidify the fact that we have a partnership that's going to be certainly committed to making sure the kids of color are going to be given an extra measure of sensitivity, but not just giving sensitivity, but giving the education. We want to make sure that our students can also understand what it means to embrace equity by kind of doing it both ways. Equity is in reverse. So that's been a good win for us, and I think our kids are going to be the primary benefits. When it comes to any kind of negative thorn, we still struggle with not wanting to do all of our work through a Zoom application or a Microsoft Meets or Google Meets. We have still been in the field meeting with our students. Of course, adopting all shelter-in-place safety rules, but we have several pictures of us giving our families resources that are COVID-related, documenting those resources and those dollars and those gift cards we're giving out. But most importantly, recognizing that when they see our face in the van, we see a different kind of registration we see a different kind of affectation in terms of them saying, you guys are really being genuine. This isn't an artificial relationship. You're going above and beyond the call of duty, putting yourself at risk, but being smart about it, by abiding by all the rules, but we have a chance to see your face. So we have our Zoom meetings, we have our phone calls, but the extra effort to go out and meet them and see their mothers and fathers who are still kind of struggling with this idea that they're at home, trying to put them at ease, let them know that everybody's going through it and we're still here to mentor and provide you with emotional restoration, but letting you know that you can guarantee for our full-fledged support. So that's been a thorn, but at the same time, I think it's a silver lining in the clouds. So that's what I share with you today.
Okay,
Should I pick someone or do they just volunteer?
We can pick people, that works, or we can volunteer.
Patricia?
So Hazelwood has a different demographics than Cascade does. And working with the demographics that we have, the the Rose has been our Monday to Friday, 10 to 3 o'clock Zoom classrooms that happen every single day for grades 2, 3, and 4, 5 hybrid. We're on Zoom every day. We have a full attendance. We have an academic program that started off with a deeper understanding of the different intelligences that we have. We started off with a challenge that had to do with dolphins. Are dolphins smarter than octopus? And we found that they were both equally smart based upon their environment and based upon their ingenuity. And then we moved and translated that into our individual intelligences and came to go through a whole training period of the different intelligences that humans have: spatial, musical, kinesthetic, et cetera, et cetera. And then from there, we are now moving into our final module, which will take us through to our online virtual graduation, which has to do with now that we've come to understand that everybody is intelligent and we have individual intelligences as well, we are now looking at cultures around the globe, foods, cultures that we are part of, and extending that into the respect for each other, our cultures, our differences, and the brilliance, the intelligence of each individual culture as it relates to people. So that is our Rose. That program starts me off in the morning, usually at around 6:30 in the morning, getting program content ready, sharing resources, and then a 9 o'clock meeting with my mentors, getting them geared up for whatever admin discussions we have to do, and then class starts formally at 10:30, and we rock and roll right on through to 3. And then from 3, you know, I'm on a Zoom meeting with you guys or picking up whatever the other pieces are. So the thorn is that last month I put in 197.5 hours, and the month before that I had 200 and some odd hours in, and I am working really diligently to get my paperwork in for what MCI Yolanda it absolutely needs in order for the data to be fleshed on out. One of the points in the last steering committee meeting that we had that Courtney was referencing was the importance of the data, because many of us did not have the knowledge that we really, REDCap really needed us to put in gender and ethnicity. And so the results that we gave in the previous January 15th were not included in the Best Start for Kids King County data. And if anybody, if I'm not reporting this correctly or accurately, please hop in. But that's my understanding, that that data, all the work that we had done, was not admissible as part of the overall reporting of statistics coming out of Best Start for Kids into King County. So bummer. Okay.
I'm not 100% positive if it meant that all of our work wasn't reported, but I do know that what wasn't reported was our demographic data. So that means that it might as well have just been work with white kids, essentially.
Yeah.
Like to the rest of the public. So
you're right. I think you're right, Courtney.
Yeah.
Thank you for rounding that out a bit. So I have a relative, you know, a good working partnership with my assistant principal at Hazelwood, and so the challenge, I'm looking ahead at next year, and what I have to do differently next year to really meet this requirement with all the students that we work with, and a new intake form that I have to create in order to ensure that any of the students that the school gives me to work with at any level has the data. And so in looking at the survey that MCI, Arnold, and Tracy and Yolanda had put together, when we got to that point where what was the student ethnicity as well as gender and age and that sort of thing. By looking at people, you can't really say what they are. And so how do you go about getting that information? Well, I checked in with my assistant principal, and we actually had a meeting with Arnold on this. And not everybody that looks like a person of color or is a mixed race person is going to identify as a mixed race person. So how do I actually produce viable data that's consistent? What we found in our school was that there were many mixed race families that, because they had a percentage enough of white in them, would choose to identify as white rather than mixed race because they didn't want their mixed race put on a report. They didn't want to be identified with that. They wanted the advantage of being white that they would not have if they were identified as mixed race. So based upon that, how accurate, are we going to be? So having had that conversation with Arnold and going back around the horn and clarifying things a bit, we settled on the fact that whatever the parent had put in to the school district data for race/ethnicity, which is one question, is what we would go by. And that would be what the school roster had, because the parents had identified themselves or their children in that way. So I don't know if anyone else had a challenge with that race/ethnicity, which is one question, which was a little confusing to me also initially at first, because a person can be of one race but identify differently as an ethnicity person. But Arnold, if I stand corrected, you please do stand correct, he hybridized the both of them, because initially I was going, oh my gosh, the race and then the ethnicity is like, they're a white Armenian, who are they? I wanted to be very accurate. So we ended up going back to the school district data, which meant that it was critical that the partnership between myself and the school had to provide that information to me. And so in my contract, my memo of understanding with the school next year, there'll be a couple of little additions to that memo. And we did not make a huge issue over many of the kids that the school would bring in. They weren't officially enrolled in a specific program that we had engaged. We had about 4, 5, or 6 programs going in the school. But the school would bring a child on into our room and say, hey, can you work with so-and-so? And we'd say, sure, of course we can work with so-and-so. But we never really recorded who that so-and-so was. And now, anytime the school, going forward, anytime the school brings in a kid, even if it's just for 2 or 3 sessions, I am going to be insisting that the school fills out this form for us. The school is also a BSK partner, so they actually know it from the other side as well. So, but I need that data. So anyway, that's my little thorn and my clarification, and I hope that helps everybody else.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the things that I was going to bring up, and so I think Patricia pretty much already covered it. Was just that we found out that our data wasn't, or our demographic data wasn't able to be included because too many of the 32 did not include race demographics for their students, and so because it wasn't consistent enough or didn't meet a certain number of the 32 that included it, we weren't able to include it at all. And so because we're specifically working and trying to show the story of our kids of color, it kind of defeated the purpose of I mean, didn't completely defeat the purpose, but it did as far as data goes, because it just now looks like another statistic to the rest of the public that could very well just be with all kids or white kids, or, you know, and so it doesn't help us tell our story of the empowerment that we're doing for kids of color, with kids of color. So it's really important that we include that information in our performance measures that are coming up, but we can talk about that a little bit more and in a little bit. I just wanted to follow up with what Patricia was saying. So it's 3:30 right now, so maybe we could do check-ins until about 4 so that we can give enough time to go over the other information. Does that sound okay with everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw Latasha had her hand raised.
Yeah, only because I got to switch it over, you guys. If y'all don't mind, I want to switch it over to Apostle James. I wanted to say, as far as, I may be wrong on this, because I wrote it down and maybe I wrote it down wrong. When they were saying about the demographic part, was it the 30, or was they saying because BSK as a whole did not do it?
I thought it was just for Tirp, for the 32 for the village.
Right. I think we did it. Am I correct, Arnold? I think the Tirp was on it or something like that, but the BSK as a whole was not.
I don't have the exact file, but they were saying in general, if 50% of the cases were missing, then they didn't include that variable.
Yeah. I think we were on it. I think Tirp did it, but then, okay. I just want to just check in and say one of our roses was the fact that honestly we were more parent engaging right now. And just to see the faces on the families that we've been serving and the families that come in and that was in that immediate need. And literally like one family, I just want to say this one, okay. They were homeless and the mom ended up on drugs, and the father stepped up and he took his son that ended up a part of us at Mill Creek, and they needed furniture. They were all sleeping on the floors. And those gift cards came so in handy, and they was able to buy them beds. They was able to buy bedroom suit. They were sharing rooms. And I just cried and just watching the people just take the stuff up in there and just seeing the relief. And then Dad just had back surgery on top of it, but they were sleeping on the floor. So to me, that was a rose, you guys, and just to see a lot of the families not, I mean, both parents not working, or someone that has anxiety and on medication because they was in the health field and they were laid off. They also did not have any more insurance, health insurance. And so they were able to use that gift card to buy their medicine, you know, and help with a whole lot of things. So that's our roses right now. Our thorns, I would say our most challenges we've been having was the kids showing up on Zoom, getting them to get on. We've been challenging that area, but we would talk with the kids as, you know, as we talk with the families. So I would say that's the only thorn right now, but the biggest rose is our family, the family engagement and being able to talk to them and help them and see the relief come off of them during this time. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Those gift cards were a huge boost.
They were. Oh, and they're due, you guys. Y'all hurry up and send them all out, because they due by the end of this month. Okay, I gotta turn the paperwork in.
Right.
Latasha, do you want, so we have all of our paperwork, we have all of our gift cards given out. I have electronic versions and I have paper copies. Is it okay to send you PDFs
Yes,
of them?
You can send them electronically, absolutely. And then I'll just print them out and give them all to Yolanda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Latasha.
Latasha, oh.
She left.
No, I'm right here. I'm sitting here. I'm just going to switch seats with Apostle James.
Okay, just a quick question.
Yes,
I had like base camped or pinged you, but just wanted to make sure we checked with Yolanda, but we were saving a bunch of our gift cards to give out at a
Walk away.
Yeah. Is that cool that we get it to you?
Yeah, I already told you yes. Yes, because Walk Away, he's throwing shout outs to our Cohort. And a lot of some of the gift cards they gave him for extra, because he was like boots on the ground giving them out. And so some of them went into his organization. And if you guys tap in, I think he did a shout out to everybody, all the organizations in our Cohort on his last show. He actually came down here and did the show live and everything. So y'all tune into that because he gave y'all a shout out.
All right, good.
Y'all. Thank you, Ms. Courtney, for tapping in with this reporting of the steering committee because they're serious about that. And that's what we're lacking. That we have to, even if it's your turn next, we have to cover that first. That's first and foremost. So thank you. Cool.
I've got a quick question. I'm working, Arnold, on that major reporting of the gender, race, da-da-da-da-da. You know which one I'm talking about? Yeah. The major report that's got the gender, the race, the age, how many children in the family, da-da-da-da-da, right? Okay, I'm working on that one. I'm not completely done on it. Is there a deadline on that? I'm hoping to have it done by the end of this month. But from what I remembered hearing from the steering committee, that there was a hard, fast deadline on that.
No, for the Google form, the COVID-19 response form, that's kind of like the intake. There is no hard due date for that. Just do it as you contact your students.
Yeah, no, I'm going to press on that to get that done because there's other things that are stacking up behind that. So I'd like to check that one off the list ASAP, but I just wanted to make sure that I understood that correctly.
No, that's, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Patricia.
Okay, I want to do a time check. It's 3:40. So let's keep moving through. Yes, Leon, go ahead.
I can go next if it's helpful.
Okay.
Just to jump into it. A quick rose is just like being in touch with the families and some of the students. Some of the conversations have been like it's been hard to get a hold of each other and it's been hard, but some of them are just really sweet. And so it's been like kind of a relief to hear from some of them. And also we are following up on a project that they want to do of creating a video for the school of like positive messages or support with conflict resolution. And so we're having like an office hours this Thursday. So I'm feeling excited. That's like a rose that hopefully they'll drop by and like work on their pieces, and then we'll have like something to send out to the rest of the school. So that feels really sweet.
Cool.
And yeah, and then the collaboration with Walkaway and Michelle Page, who Terrell, you know, and other folks, we're doing kind of a giveaway next Friday for families in need in Tukwila. So that feels like an exciting kind of collaboration across our cohort. And yeah, thanking Latasha and everybody for the gift cards, that we're donating a bunch of them in that space.
Is the giveaway going to happen live, or is it going to be through a virtual platform?
No, it's going to be in person, and so they've done one. I wasn't there, but I think it's just a drive-by, so I think it's pretty well organized of like just a certain number of people can be let in both at a time in the parking lot, and it's, I think, using like people are, I think, going to be very distant from each other and like one car at a time. And Michelle was like, someone asked me to get out and give me a hug, and I was like, no, so I think they're being pretty strict about just making sure there's distance but still getting people resources physically.
Nice.
That's cool.
And then a thorn, probably just like the more difficult work-life balance situation with just being at home. I think it's easier for work to go much past time for me personally, and then just feeling like the more I put in, the more support people who I collaborate with or serve have, so it feels a little bit hard to deal with that intellectually and emotionally. And then also just the reporting feels challenging just because I care about telling the full picture, so it's been a little bit hard with all the different forms and wanting to log everything. So that's definitely been a little bit of a thorn, though I totally understand the goal and the intent of it, and I'm happy to do it, but it's a lot of computer time. So empathizing with what Patricia was saying for sure about just feeling zoomed out. So that's my check-in.
Thank you. Do you want to pick somebody or?
Sure. Let's see. Ayanle?
How you guys doing? How's it doing? Cohort 4 family, how you guys doing?
Really good.
Good.
Good to see you guys. A thorn for me, I'm gonna start with the thorn. This whole COVID-19 is a thorn. Definitely having loved ones or just, your neighbors, the community at large, lose families, definitely is a thorn. And and just having that fear, cloud of fear on top of us, the unknown. Just this past couple of days, all the families that were in unemployment, there was a fraud happening. So everything got frozen. $3 million were stolen from the Washington State unemployment, what I've heard from it. And there's a lot of international fraud coming into Washington State. So imagine finally having the pandemic unemployment open up to Uber drivers, to the independent contractors. And then on top of it, the fraud coming in and shutting everyone down. So punishing everyone together because due to some few folks who are committing fraud. So that's a thorn. So you'll see that in the next upcoming couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, of families panicking and looking for, again, some resources and some rent help and some food. The beautiful part of this whole entire situation is having to collaborate with across the board with everyone. We're doing things we haven't done in the past when we were free to move around, right? And so now that we are stuck here indoors, we're seeing folks reaching out across the aisle, different faith, different communities, saying, hey, I have, Latasha is one of them. And I want to thank her and Apostle James for allowing us to participate in giving out that money, that $250. That really meant a lot to families. It put smiles on people's faces, the ones that we give to the families that were in need. So that shows at this time of need, how important it is to reach across the aisle and to put our differences aside and say, hey, what can I do to be part of this family and how can I help? Because I know you're all the way from Kent, you're helping people in Tukwila, Des Moines, Highline area. So you're touching lives across the cities. And so I want to thank you for that. And also the collaborative piece with DRC, Leanne and Sharon, and Miss Page and Walkaway. It's definitely important for us, the folks that are working in Tukwila. And actually, let me remind you, it's just for Showalter and foster families. And so the survey that we sent out, it's that money and that food, it's going particularly into that two area, because that's the area that we are trying to get more engagement out of. So if you come there, we might not turn you away, but I think we're gonna have to kind of really put the expectation out so that we don't have families from Kent to drive in and then end up not getting anything, right? So that I just want to make sure I remind you that that it's for Showalter and foster, and that's the only the resources we have available for it right now. Another one is having opportunity to speak with families. That's another beautiful rose on our end, and just hearing from families, how are they doing? Do they have the basic necessities? The first goal is not about, are you attending school? Are you attending your online classes? But it's like, how are you guys doing? How's your mental state? And so that is beautiful to hear many positive stories from families and that they're doing well. Having our high school students volunteer for organization that are taking part of giving out food. And that is also another role that, imagine the youngsters are stepping up and they're thinking about helping the less fortunate and the less, the needy, those who are in need. So definitely that's something to highlight in our stories. Not only adults are doing it, but also the youngsters are imitating what the adults are doing. So that is a very beautiful thing. There are some thorns out there that I'm forgetting, but at the end of the day, I'm focusing on the things that we can control. I can control myself. So everyone is healthy, everyone's doing well. It's always beautiful if you're above ground, another day above ground, just to see you guys, to work with you guys. That is a beautiful thing. And so I know my sister Courtney out there was talking about leading the piece about the cohorts. And I want to just emphasize also that it's really important that we participate and we bring our collective stories together. Although they are different, we have different stories to tell, but we got to bring it together. We got to make sure we're hitting our deliverables. We got to make sure that we have both the quantitative data that Patricia talked about. She said data is cash. And we got to know that as people of color, because at the end of the day, we can tell stories, but also we got to have the numbers. We got to have the numbers to go along with the stories. And I think this platform will allow us to tackle our obstacles and our success stories, but I think we need to figure out how can we streamline our process so that when we are delivering these deliverables back to Dr. Arnold and his team, that it's very clear, and that when stakeholders are involved, they understand that we've told the story based on, you know, our effort, 110% effort, and that we're not holding back on each other in terms of sharing information. We're not asking to give each other signatures, but we're asking what's working and what's not working, and how can we tell those stories and have a unified message. If the village is not unified in terms of the deliverables and in terms of the data, whether it's the qualitative piece and the quantitative piece, then we're looking at a shutdown on after 3 years. And we're hoping to continue this work, and we don't have to continue to reapplying and starting this all over, right? We don't want to reinvent the wheel. So I'll end with that. And thank you for bringing that up, Courtney. And I know we're going to go in depth in terms of what's needed on our end. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to call on someone?
I apologize. I see Fred. Have you spoken?
Oh.
Fred there? How about
my mute button was stuck. I couldn't get it off. I'm here. I'm good. I guess I'll go with a rose first. A rose first. Well, this happened in the month of April for our organization. We was able to feed over 1,300 students within Kent, as well as other surrounding cities that was close. We partnered with a restaurant called Alphas. It was able to serve over 1,300 students, so that was something that was a big accomplishment for us. And as a thorn, I would say, well, this happened just recently. We did a class on last Wednesday, and we don't know if it was a student or not, but just we're in the middle of our class and Microsoft Teams and being muted and being kicked off, and students being kicked off, so it made the class really inconsistent, not knowing if it was Microsoft itself that was having issues or whether it was one of the students. And so us having to go back and kind of almost have to redo the class again, just so we can make sure that the students got the information and are able to move forward with the curriculum. So this is a more current thorn, just something that was minor, but something that kind of frustrating. So that's it.
Thanks, Fred. We can keep calling on people, or people can volunteer.
Matthew.
All right. ¿Cómo están ahora, señoras y señoritas? Muy bien, gracias. Hey, I'm Matt with Unleash the Brilliance. I work closely with Mr. Terrell Dorsey. Good man, good organization, great people. Patricia, a lot of wisdom. I guess the roles for me has been just the gift cards that we've been able to do with Mr. Dorsey according to the rules and regulations of what's going on. You know, going down, putting smiles on their faces, the ability to connect with some of the students, but mostly the parents. Because I think that's where the encouragement is at. If we can encourage the parents, that's kind of my opinion. I think they'll be able to have the ability to have a sound mind and be able to touch the kids and the students. And I mean, I can go on, and we've done so much good things. I think the biggest thorn for me is, you know, the COVID. I don't like to give it. I don't like to give it any credit. I know sometimes when I'm typing out data on the sweep with Mr. Dorsey, I never capitalize the C on COVID because I don't want to give it any power. That's just my opinion. I just think, you know, things are beginning to open up. And I guess my biggest thorn is, you know, that some people are going to be ignorant. You know, they're going to run out and just create more chaos rather than exercising their freedom in a way that's righteous and right. I wear a mask, you know, when I go to church, or I wear a mask, even when I go to the stores and I see people not wearing them. That's been my biggest thorn. And I had a customer tell me, "Why do you wear one? We're going to be okay." I said, "Well, that's not the point. The point is that I may be offending somebody, or for the fact I may be discrediting the rules by what people are doing. And I'm just trying to be an example. So that's been my biggest thorn is, what is it going to look like? You know, are people going to create more chaos, or are we going to stay positive and live a good life? So, I mean, off of that, I mean, I'm doing great. I'm blessed. I think under Unleash the Brilliance, we've done some great things, especially in Cascade Middle School with Mr. Miller, the Dean of Students, and Miss McGordy, the principal. They had literally, and I don't say this to boast, but I am. I mean, they literally had to tell us, man, you guys are crushing it on the data here. They have to come and pull off of the data from calling our kids, because they're wondering, why are we making such big connections? And I think what it is consistency. You know, you make that call, you try to visit, you know, according to the rules, and you just gotta stay consistent. You know, sometimes they don't answer, but if you can connect with the parents, you can get a whole lot of information. So, and then to be able to work with you guys, to hear what you guys are saying. You know, I'm really excited about each one of you and your organizations. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. All of you are leaders. You're phenomenal, and you know, God's gonna bless us, and He's gonna take care of us. So I just want to say that.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep. Blessings.
I can go next. My rose has definitely been any time that I've been able to see a kid in real life. So whether that's giving a gift card to him and his mom and then shopping in the same store together right after that, you know, and continually seeing each other and giggling, or, you know, we just started something new in our class where we're doing a Kahoot, which is like, I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's kind of a test your knowledge game that you can do. So we've started doing that to review our last class, and then the winners, we get to go to their house and do a porch drop off of their favorite little snack. So I'm just excited for things like that, because that's why I do this work. That's what gets me going. Which leads to my thorn being that the actual, I just miss the people work. I definitely relate to not liking all the computer work. You know, the thorn is putting the times in that spreadsheet, probably the call times, and how it always goes to AM, and I want it to go to PM. I don't know if anyone relates, but that's me.
Thanks, Stephanie. I can go next. So this is Courtney. I'm going to start with the thorn too. I think that the thorn is definitely not just the computer work, but I'd say that the thorn is that we can't reach some of our families. That there's some families or some students that just are unreachable right now, despite the amount of calls or emails, and I worry about what's going on with those families. Or families who've expressed need, and then I've called to offer some help financially and have not heard back from yet. Like, that scares me, you know. And my thorn is also for those students whose school was their safe place. What's going on for them at home? There's, amidst all of this COVID stuff, like, people keep saying that we're in this together and things like that, and yeah, we are, but there's some people who are going through their own personal hell right now, and there's no way out, and that pains me, for those kids that are experiencing violence in the home, that we don't know about right now, or women or men or anybody who is experiencing that right now. And yeah. And then my rose would be that we as an organization were given some money to give out to we were given some money in the beginning of this to use to keep us afloat, but our Kendrick decided that he was going to use it to give back to the community instead, because we were all okay, and as far as his team members, and so and our organization, and so we've been able to distribute that money as far as like rental help and grocery help and paying some utility bills and things like that for so far 26 families, and then they were all from one of our schools, Meeker, pretty much, except for one person was from another school, our other school, Meridian. So in that, we still have plenty of funds left over. And so I was able to contact the principal at Meridian and talk to her about how we can now offer funds we can extend it outside of our GEM family to the Meridian families that are in need of some support too, because the GEM, like our Meridian GEM students, those families didn't express need much, and so that doesn't mean that there isn't a need at that school. It just means that our families that we work with directly at that school didn't say they needed anything, and so we're able to move beyond just the GEM family and help our partners as well, which is really great, and I'm super excited about that. And I was able to complete all those applications, complete all 26 applications last week. So I was able to, I went into the office for a few hours and I was able to distribute funds to families, and just the gratitude from them was amazing. And yeah, and that also gave myself my own appreciation for my situation as well, and kind of put things into perspective for me, because I still have a job that's paying me. And I didn't lose access to my funding source to support my family. I can feed my child. I can, you know, I can support my family even if my boyfriend is out of work, right? Like that is all huge blessings in this time. And I realized that even more so talking to the families that have single moms, lost jobs, 7 kids, or, you know, just it's devastating. So, or owning a small business and now having to file for bankruptcy or go under because that's, you know, that's all. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just grateful today. So that's it. Who still hasn't gone? Let's see.
Sharon?
Who? What?
Sharon?
Oh, Sharon. I don't know if she stepped out because she said she was getting delivery.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. What about Reverend James?
Reverend James, I thought that was attached to. No, I'm only joking.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. If you guys want to combine it.
No, I have a thorn. One of my thorns would be knowing that there's a lot of young people who are not in school that are not inspired to continue up with their schoolwork. About understanding that a lot of our young people, they're going to move to another grade and they may not be fully prepared or having their minds focused on doing that work. And I don't see a lot of it, except for probably our group, the village, encouraging parents as they get to talk to them to tell them, you know, to continue to do your schoolwork, and we're here to help to tutor or whatever it is that we may be doing. But I still know that there's a lot of those young people out there who just basically see school as out and not getting the encouragement and of the importance for them to do that work. And so, because they're not going to get penalized, they're not going to flunk them because they didn't do the work. So I just know a lot of Black and brown kids and whoever else and students are going to need some assistance and help trying to deal with the education system as they move to the next grade and not being encouraged to do that work. Then the roles would be, I would have to say the ability to help the families through the gift cards, to be able to see their faces, to hear that it wasn't just about the gift cards because they have made a connection and they're still, you know, calling and participating and want to participate. So it was more that thing that being focused on what people really need. And when we're concerned about other people, then other people want to be concerned about what you're concerned about. So, so that's the roles, to see that people wasn't out there just so they could get some money. They were genuinely inspired to participate in the ministry or programming that we do here at RAP. And in closing, and I'm only joking. No.
Thank you. Okay, Arnold, do you want to hop in with Rose and the Thorn?
Well, I guess the rose is being here with all of you, because I really appreciate the fact that you're letting the researcher kind of come in and see your work and see your vulnerability and see who you are and what you do, which is a very unique place to be for researchers. So I greatly appreciate that. And then my only thorn has been, and this is going to sound pretty trivial, but I decided to fly home to visit my family because it's been months and they've been clamoring for me to come down there. So, but my seat keeps changing on the plane. Like I keep getting emails almost daily about your seat's here, it's there, it's, so that's been kind of causing some anxiety because what's going to happen on the day of the flight? I leave on Thursday, and if my seat gets changed again, I mean, I might be outside the plane. I don't know. I'm just very anxious about getting on the plane. I told my cousin, he's like, well, be sure to wear your N9 mask the entire time and don't take it off for any reason whatsoever. So, I think that the COVID issue is a huge thorn because it kind of disconnects people from family. And for me, that's a huge thorn because I spend a lot of time with my family. So, but I'm hoping for the best. So we'll see. But again, thank you for letting me and see you do your work. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Okay. Fred, I think you're not muted. There we go. Okay. That's good. Okay, that was everybody, right? I didn't miss anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys, for taking the time to do that. I think it's really important that we get to celebrate the things that are going well for us, especially during this time. And I think that even in a time where it can seem like it's so dreary and like negative and fear-based, there is a lot of good coming out of what we're doing and who we are and who we are individually, who we are as organizations. And I'm a person who really tries to strive for like positivity and looking for the silver lining, even amidst the chaos. So I appreciate hearing all the good that you guys are doing. Anyway, so thank you for sharing that. Okay, so the things that I was going to talk about are the performance measures, demographic data, and then MPHI consulting hours. And so like I said, I'm going to have Arnold speak to the MPHI consulting hours, and we kind of already touched on the demographic data. It kind of bleeds into the performance measures. So if you guys remember correctly, the performance measures are what are due every January and July. They are, so we have our monthly surveys that we report with, and then now that includes the client contact tracker as well as the resource tracker. And then in July, our next performance measures, which is the more in-depth one, will be sent in and will be due as well. So sorry, backing up a second, I did want to go over, sorry, I know I'm jumping everywhere, but so it just reminded me, so the resources tracker, right? So I don't know if any of you guys had some questions around that or had some questions around any of these new documents, but there is a frequently asked question sheet that BSK put together that I can post in our Cohort 4 message board, so you can take a look. But one of those questions was if we're not reallocating funds or using any BSK Terp budget to support families, do we still need to track and document those resources? The answer is no. So the only resources, so even though like our organization, that was important for me to know because our organization received funds outside of BSK and outside of Terp, and we've been able to reallocate those funds to families, but it has nothing to do with our Terp money or that specific grant. So we don't have to report that to Terp. The BSK gift cards that they gave us, yes, because we gave those out to families, those would go on our report. If we were to utilize any of the funds directly coming to us from BSK to give out to families, then those would go and be reported on that report. If you don't have any of that, like if you didn't distribute funds to families or your resources are coming from elsewhere, you don't have to turn in that form. Does that make sense? Any questions?
It's good to know, because I thought one of the prerequisites to get an invoice process was that you had to report both those forms. So this is good news.
Mhm. So I would maybe make a mention or send something to Julia and Yolanda, just letting them know, like, we didn't reallocate any funds this month,
Right.
or anything like that, so that they know that that's why you didn't submit it, and you didn't just, like, you weren't just negligent in not submitting it. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. There's also some good information on here around what to report and what not to report. I mean, like, what's required to report on those sheets. Like, so we are required to report, to turn those contact sheets in. That's for sure. There's a question about, we send so many emails to students, staff, families, 10 to 30 a day. What information do we include on the call log spreadsheet? And it says, do record emails sent to students, staff, and families. If one email thread is about one subject, then record one and the time it took for you to resolve the issue. Do include conversations and contacts with partners, any type of outreach to secure resources and supports. So partners being like our schools, I believe, that are not schools, staff, families, student, any other partners, sorry, okay, other than schools. If it is in relation to supporting your Terp work. So remember, the things that we're reporting are just Terp work, because I don't know about your guys' organizations or not, but our organization does a lot of other things too. I don't know how many of you are just specifically Terp funded and Terp related versus how many of you have other things that you do as well. So that, I think, was important for me to understand as well. So that's why I'm kind of sharing it. And I know that there was one organization that has about 300 students 300 families that they're working with. And then some of them, I think it was the principal at Hazelwood. I mean, he's dealing with an entire school. And so if you have a caseload that is that big, if you have a caseload that is that big, those initial surveys only need to be done on a select, like, 50 scholars. So if say you have a caseload of 1,000 students, you don't need to make one of those for all 1,000 students. You're just picking out the 50 scholars, like 50 of them that you think would be a good focus group, and then do those for just that 50. Does that also make sense? Questions? Okay. So I will post this. There's a couple more things on here too, but I will post this to the to cohort 4 thing. Patricia, did you have something else to say, or?
I was just giving you an agreement.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, I missed those. I missed those.
No. I missed restorative justice.
I know. Thank you. Okay. And all right, so that will be posted. Let me flip back to here real quick. Okay, so the performance measures, so those are going to be due in July. So, and this is where I may need some support from the additional steering committee members, just to make sure that I get this correctly, or correct, or even from MPHI. So if you guys remember, at the very beginning of our work, they had hired on different consultants that were not MPHI. I don't even remember where they came from or who they were, to be honest. And they met with us once and then asked us to come up with these performance measures, right? And at that time, I don't know about you guys, but I was so confused. Our organization was very confused as to what they wanted, how it was supposed to look. It was just a very confusing document, but we created these performance measures, right? And that meant that all 32 have created their own performance measures around how much did we do, how well did we do it, and is anybody else better off? Those are the 3 performance measures that we have been reporting on. Those are the 3 areas, and then within each of those areas, each organization came up with their own way to measure those. You guys following me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so because of that, now we have 30, whatever, like 60 different measures, right? Coming from all over, all of these different people to measure those 3 areas. But they're all being measured differently. Like for us, one of ours is like how many, I think it's for how well did we do, or was anybody else better off? No. How well did we do is like, are there any decreased, what's the percentage of decreased behavior incidences? That's how we're measuring it, right? And that doesn't mean that that's how you guys are all measuring it. And so what the original goal was for Tirp specifically was to get to the point where we could answer those questions, but in a more uniform way, and have just 3 measures that everybody is measuring to answer each of those questions. So instead of having like 60 something ways of measuring those 3 areas, we would just have 3 that every organization would report on. And so now coming in July, so for the steering committee, we agreed this last steering committee on that goal, right? We want to have that goal because it makes more sense for reporting. It makes more sense for collecting data and to be able to tell the story. And so we will be receiving soon what those 3 questions are based off of the past collection, what they come up with. We will be voting on whether we approve of those 3 questions or not. And then those 3 questions will be added to the performance measures in July. You will still be reporting on your original performance measures, and then those ones would be included. And then I believe the next step would be that the next January report would be just those 3. Did I get that right, Arnold? Okay, sweet, cool. Does that make sense? Are there any questions, comments? How do people feel about it? Any feedback, anything?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I mean, what I'm hearing is that, like, I mean, I always from the beginning sort of was like, that's weird that we all have different measures, but also that's like really awesome that it's tailored to the specific organization's work. So like, you know, I saw both sides of it, and so I understand the desire to move towards it, but how would we report on measures that we haven't been collecting data on for the last 6 months? I understand if like we were let know at the 6-month mark or at the beginning, like for next year, we could maybe do that, but how would we, especially now with COVID, but even in general, we've already been collecting data on like, we do number of mediations, a number, you know, whatever.
That's a very good question, and one that Arnold, do you want to answer that?
Right, so all of the organizations have the same goal, and that goal is to support our Black and Brown children in schools. And so in that respect, the measures are similar, but they're not exactly the same. And so we're gonna probably look at what you're measuring and kind of group them based on their similarity. And that's for the past data, but moving forward, we wanna have those 3 measurement data. So again, you're all doing work to have the same goal. So you're probably using similar type of measurement to achieve that. So that's how we're gonna approach that. And then moving forward, we're gonna have those 3 measures that we're gonna roll out.
Yeah, it totally makes sense to me to have like a one or like 3 united measures. It's just that like we started collecting data for our July measures at the beginning of the year, or like for sure at least in December or January when we reported the other one. So I'm just wondering if like it'll be close enough that you think we'll be able to use what we've already collected to report in July, or whether you think we'll just, because no problem for next year to report on different measures, right. But I'm just worried about this year's.
Well, 2 things. One is, yes, I think it will be close once we kind of get to that stage. But I also want to tell you that, and this is just my thought, is that the work that you're doing in collecting the data is not lost because we're changing the measures. You can still use that data to tell your story about your organization. So if you're going to reach out to funders or other people, grant money, things like that, you still have that information. It's just that for BSK Tirp, we're kind of looking at the data more uniformly. So definitely, if these measures speak uniquely to your organization, you can use those and we can help you use those in telling your story. about the work that you do. But for BSK Tirp moving forward, we want to kind of streamline those data. Does that make sense, Terrell?
So
Yeah.
And we would do that streamlining through technical assistance. So you could meet with us up to 10 hours and schedule that time to meet with us up to 10 hours, and we can talk to you about how you can utilize your existing data that you collected that may speak uniquely to your organization, and how you can report that to other funders. So nothing's getting lost. We're not throwing anything away. We're just trying to get a uniform measurements as we move forward. We don't want to say, hey, your measurements, get rid of those. No, we're not saying that. We're saying that, yes, you can use those measurements, and you should, because all of you have unique organizations, and there should be something unique about the data that you can speak to in telling your story. So hopefully that answers your question, Leon.
Yeah, I think that it makes sense that the way that they're going is to try to tell the story. It's always been to try to tell the story as a collective, right? That's been the vision from Yolanda from the beginning. And that's why we have the cohorts, that's why we have the village, that's why we have the steering committee, and why everything has been done from internal out. And I think that now yes, we are the 32, we are all individual organizations, but at the end of this, we want to tell the story as a collective, as a village. How much did we do? How well did it work? And who was better off because of it, right? So like, this is just a way now to help us move in that direction of telling the one collective story. And I'm assuming that it's going to be measuring things that we are already measuring with our data that we turn in, between the data that we turn in monthly and the work that we're doing that way. And again, the steering committee hasn't seen those questions yet, or those performance measures yet. We'll be getting those soon. The goal is to get those before the village committee, or the village convening on the 29th, because we want to vote on them, and then at that village convening, that's where they're going to share that information with the rest of the village. And so it's not necessarily that Arnold and Tracy and the data and evaluation team are just coming up with random questions or random performance measures. They're taking what we already have and then trying to combine the best they can into one measure to help us tell that story. My question, my team, we were looking through this as well, because I was looking at the performance measures. So Patricia had brought up at the steering committee about how it would be nice to have the questions ahead of time so that we know what we need to be collecting and what we need to measure. And I think and I agreed with Patricia. I thought that was a very good point. Like, I want to know what it is ahead of time that I need to be working towards and collecting, right? Instead of we get to July and then you're asking me for this, and then all of a sudden I have to have that. Even as far as like the performance measure questions, I know that they're mostly going to be the same as from before, but I think that they're going to work on sending those questions. Yolanda's going to send out those questions to all of us, so we have them in advance. So when I was looking at this with my team after that steering committee meeting, I realized that even our original performance measures, we can't answer necessarily. And I'm not sure how to go about that. And I don't know if I need to talk to you or if I need to talk to Yolanda about that, but the data that we were using is not accurate because there's no school. So like, the percentage of decreased behavior incidences was based off of how many behavior referrals were submitted to this school from the time that they were not, before they were in the class, and then during the class and after. So how would I can't really report on that because there's no behavior incidences. Patricia?
Yeah, so piggybacking on what Courtney's talking about, when it comes to January 15th, I am wondering if there is going to be a pre-COVID-19, post-COVID-19 component to this reporting process. And if there's not going to be that, is there a way of, in the narrative, of course, talking about pre-COVID engagement with our youth and any percentages of improved, and then post-COVID, the impact that post-COVID has had, and what we have been able to do or not do. How do we extrapolate the difference in the data? How do we effectively report that for what you need from us? I can report all of that. I have my pre, I have my post. But when I'm looking at the July 15th report, I want to know ahead of time what it is that you're going to be looking at, because it's enough of a pressure to get the end of the month done with the level of the detail that we get it done, and then to have 15 days to produce something else that is 3 degrees of center of what we have been working on, combined with the pre and post.
Right, we're trying to get that information to you as quickly as possible, and we're just waiting to figure out what those are.
Okay.
It has to do with not only BSK, but also to do with King County, and there's a lot of players going on. So we have to work with our community partners and steering committee. And I think that we had a goal of getting to them the measures at the end of the month.
I remember us talking about that, and I guess my conversation to you is just to reinforce the need for that.
Oh, yes.
Because BSK has not granted us an extension on the July 15th. And if they haven't granted us an extension on the July 15th, they're really putting our backs to the wall, and that there feels like a lot of pressure on that. And you know, speaking for myself personally, with the kind of intensity of the program that I'm currently running, I have a lot of pressure on me. So anything that I can do to streamline my end result and get you the good data, I want as much leeway time as I can.
Right, and we'll be meeting constantly to get that straightened out and get it rolled out to everybody.
Everybody needs it.
Because I understand there's a huge pressure when you only have a certain amount of time, so we're trying to be ahead of that. Hopefully get it done by the end of May.
And I'm wondering if you could, like, when you come to your meeting with the data and evaluation team, or when you guys are deciding this, can you maybe bring up, since you are sitting in our cohort meeting, if you could bring up that concern or that question that we have, and maybe they could explain that at on the 29th, because I'm sure we're not the only organization that has that question or that issue, because that's just one of our performance measures. Even the first one, which is like how much did we do, which is how many students were engaged in the class. Well, that looks different pre-COVID versus post-COVID, because there's a lot of students that are not engaged anymore. And then the third question is like, is anybody better off? Even with the data that we were collecting for that, which would be, we used our unit questionnaires and our hope scales, right? Our pre, interim, and post hope scales. Even if we were to give a hope scale to the students who are still engaged, COVID has a huge impact on what that looks like. And there's no way of showing that just being a part of our class has been any part of that impact anymore. There's too much what's the word? There's too much outside influence right now.
Right, and so what we say in research, sorry, my voice is, I've been in a lot of meetings today, sorry. We say in research, this is an historical event. And so, and we see that, I guess the best explanation of that could be when we had 9/11, right? So we had 9/11 in New York, and it threw off the crime rates. Crime rates dropped, right? And so whenever we're looking at crime rates for that period, we recognize the historical event that happened, that impacted the crime rate. So similarly with COVID as a historical event, we're going to see that, yes, COVID is happening, and this is what it looked like post-COVID. So it's not a case that the numbers are lower or different. It's really that historical event that happened that had an impact on that. And that's why we're having everyone kind of do that COVID intake form to kind of get an idea of what's going on. But it's a very unique data collection time because it's, it's during COVID. So yes, we would expect that there would be some differences, and we're definitely going to talk about how the village was able to pivot and support students. And yeah, so I think it's not a problem with your data. It's just a problem with this historical event.
All right, thank you, Arlo. I think before we go to the next layer of information, I'd like to recognize and acknowledge Baron Yu, who's joined us about 15 minutes ago.
Oh, welcome. Welcome, hi. Thank you. I can only see 4 people on my screen at once, so thank you.
It's having some work at school we got to take care of, so I apologize for my turn.
It's okay.
No worries.
Thanks for joining us. Patricia, you have your hand up.
Yeah, my hand up is that I just really would like to make sure that, yes, we recognize that this is a historic event, but an aspect of the historic event that I feel needs to be included in the framework is that part of this historical event is that post-COVID, everything is voluntary. So student participation is voluntary. So if I have a list of 50 students and only 15 show up, it's because only 15 wanted to show up, no matter how much I reached on out to that. So I really think that having voluntary in there is an acknowledgement of the difference in the shift.
I think, yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point. I think there's that, and then there's also on top of that, there's outside influencers as well, right? Like, so even if we have students who would like to join, some of them don't have internet to join. Some of them, their computers aren't, like one of our students specifically, like his computer microphone just doesn't work, his speaker doesn't work. So even though he's wanted to engage, he hasn't been able to. We've tried to get him set up with tech support at the school, but they're backed up until like the end of June. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors that play as well as the voluntary versus involuntary as well. Just want to point that out too. But thank you, that's a great point to put that. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Is it okay I'll make a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Arnold, based off the conversation, I just wanted to clarify. I just need some clarification. One, so are we saying that the county or BSK is still going to hold us to those original performance measures based off of, the clarification about and the challenges that everyone is discussing about right now? We still are going to go with those performance measures, and also I'd like to know, are we able to get some of that one-on-one from MPHI before the 29th or by the 29th? The one-on-one is from MPHI that was talked about in the steering committee.
Right. So we are working with, Miss Yolanda, King County, to figure out what those measurements are going to look like.
Okay.
So that hasn't been determined yet. But I'm hoping that they will be similar to what you've already been collecting, because that would make the most sense. And then as far as getting time to have one-on-one technical assistance, there is a link that you can click on, and you can specify a time and day to meet, and we will fit you into the calendar, because we have to kind of track those hours. And you have up to 10 hours, but if you need more than that, we can always negotiate. Excuse me, my voice is gone. We can always negotiate with King County to get you more hours. But and that could be any time between now and whenever. So it's not a problem. But yes, so we haven't decided what those measures are going to look like. We're trying to get consensus on that. And then the one-on-one time, I think it was a link that Ms. Yolanda sent out Is that correct, Courtney?
To be honest, that's where I kind of needed additional support from the steering committee because I don't remember the exact
Okay.
process that she was talking about. And if you could just, can you pause for just 1 second as far as that goes? Just because I want to make sure that we're done with that conversation. And then I'm hoping that maybe you could explain what you're talking about in a little bit more detail for everybody who wasn't at the steering committee.
Oh, okay.
So is there, I'm kind of gathering that maybe this is a conversation to have with BSK specifically as far as the performance measures and if we're required to still complete those original ones if we are unable to collect that specific data, because for some of us it's just like it's literally there's no way to collect that data. It doesn't make sense. They're not at school. There's no behavior data. There's, you know what I mean, depending on what your measurement was. So maybe that's something that I will follow up with Yolanda and ask her about, and then hopefully they can include that in their on May 29th, because I'm sure that we're not the only cohort or organization or organizations that have that question or that concern. Was there any other comments or anything about the performance measures before we answer or talk about MPHI?
Regarding the MPHI link, Courtney, either Arnold can resend it out or I can go through my mail and try to see if and locate it for you and get it on over to you.
Okay. All right. So Arnold, can you explain for the rest of us what we're talking about as far as the one-on-one and the 10 hours and MPHI and all that, please?
Sure. MPHI negotiated with King County to provide technical assistance to not only the Terp, but all of BSK can get it, all of BSK. But of course, our heart is with the Terp Village. And that's up to 10 hours in total, which could be used for technical assistance in how you use your data. It could be used for capacity building if you want to expand your reach in terms of who you provide services to or who you might ask for support for your services. And that is managed by a doodle link that King County set up where you type in your availability, and then someone from King County emails us the schedule, and we have a communication like we're doing now, one-to-one, and talking about what your needs are. So for example, we spoke with Ms. Teresa recently and did a one-on-one with her about how she's reorganizing her organization in response to COVID. And so just providing that guidance, that technical support, and it can be very broad as long as it's kind of thinking about, what you're focusing on, which would be capacity building and data collection. Those are the two broad categories. But if it's something that you're not sure about, we can have a pre-conversation to figure out what your needs are and to see if they actually fit within the scope of that work. But as far as I know, it's very broad in the contract. Mm-hmm. But again, you would follow through by clicking on the link and figuring out what day, what time works best for you. And then King County will email MPHI and tell us that you have this schedule of appointments. So they kind of King County manages it. And so, because they're in charge of the funding for it. Okay. So they will let us know if someone signed up and then what their time and day is.
Okay. And it was my understanding that it may not even be you or Tracy that's assisting, but somebody from MPHI, depending on what the need is. Is that correct?
Well, we have, we onboarded our new member, Ebony. She can be helpful, but also we have over 600 employees at MPHI. Mm-hmm. So if there's some expertise that Dr. Tracy or myself or Dr. Ebony, if they don't have that expertise, we can find someone within our 600 people to give you that expertise. So, yes, it might be someone other than us, but we want to get you the best person to help whatever issue that you need resolved or that you need some support with.
Okay. And this is not something that's mandatory. It's something that's like offered as a gift to all BSK, right? So if you, like I spoke to my organization about it, and he said that they had already signed up for something like that with someone else that they're currently involved in. So I wouldn't need to access that. But if you, I mean, our organization wouldn't need to access that. But if you are an organization that has struggled with figuring out how to collect data or how to use data to boost your organization, or how you could even utilize the data that you've been collecting in a way that's more effective, right? Any of that stuff would be consultation worthy, like ours, and they would basically be able to help sit down with you and your organization, or whoever in your organization, to help you figure that out. And again, like Dr. Arnold said, it doesn't have to be Terp related. If you're an organization that does multifaceted, or that does multiple things but are under BSK grants, then you can receive that support in those other parts of your organization as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Any questions, anyone? Questions, comments?
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Courtney. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Arnold, for explaining that and for being here on our call. Okay, so it is 4:40 right now, and that's all of the updates that I remembered from the steering committee that I know we discussed that were super important. Other than like what I talked about in the beginning, which is that our cohort meetings are mandatory now, and they are also very important. And so I don't know if we want to take the last 20 minutes or just a few minutes, doesn't even have to go all the way till 5, but just to kind of talk about like how we want to utilize this time, or how we want to structure it, so that when we do change off who's hosting it, we have more of an idea of what we're looking for, or what we want to incorporate as a cohort, what we want to do as a cohort. What was that?
Sorry, Courtney, I got a question that I forgot to ask earlier. Dr. Arnold, some of us are doing some collaborative work, like, putting resources together in terms of like the work that we're doing on May 29th to give out some food. And so we've decided to kind of contribute some gift cards, some of the funds that we have. How do we, within that collaborative, we still need signatures, right? The families that are getting the gift cards, because let's say Leanne, and I know Leanne and them are trying to gather some signatures for their gift cards, and the same for Walkaway. And so how do we kind of like, do we track down, or do we just like keep our own gift cards and just kind of pass it out to certain families? I mean, it's a little bit confusing in terms of when it comes to the money piece, because it's still, we need to turn that in, right?
And
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you're still going to have to document any resources that you give. But I will check with Ms. Yolanda to figure out if you're collaborating with another organization, how that would work out. I know that there was talk about having electronic signatures for some things because of COVID. But I will check with Ms. Yolanda and figure out how we can help you get what you need in terms of those signatures.
I can speak to that, Mr. Nally. I was already aware by Ms. Yolanda that if you guys have given out some of your gift cards to like Walkaway or some other Miss Leanne or anybody else, then they are responsible to get the signatures of the ones that you guys gave out. Okay. And then they can either give them back over to you guys or send them in to me, because I wrote off the numbers on everybody's sheet. So they can give it to me personally or through electronically like Ms. Courtney's gonna do, or they can send yours back over signed. Either way, and the ones that you did not give out and you already have them signature, just send them in to me so I can have them all connected. But you know, some people took it to Mr.
We can't hear you.
You cut out, Latasha.
I'm sorry. That would allow, we're trying to keep it all in one space so that that'll allow everyone to be on one accord, because I have the tracking sheet to be able to know who all did what and who turned in what. And so, Mr. Nolly, just tell Walkaway or whoever you gave some out to make sure they get them into me. And then I'll let you know that you're checked off.
Can I make a comment to that form as well? I was a little bit confused with the form when I looked at it. And so I reached out to Yolanda asking how exactly she wanted us to fill it out. And she had said she sent us a form that she had, you know, like it's just a generalized form. And she said for that form, all you have to do is the top part where it says, is that the form right there, Terrell? Yes, it is. Does it say, I can't read it on my phone. My eyes are too bad. But what is that?
That's the one Mr. Terrell has.
And what does the top one say? Does it say grocery or something?
Yeah, it has it broken down.
Yeah, but
store certificate, utilities, rental, and other.
Okay. So for the grocery certificate one, she said all you have to do is, even if it's for rental, for any of that stuff, all we need to do is in that first section put the Visa gift card or U.S. Bank Visa gift card, and then put the gift card number. And what I did is I put there was a number on the outside of the envelope, and then there's also like it says card ending in, so I put both those numbers on there. And then $250 in that next box, and then just have a signature, and that's it. Like, I mean, fill out the top part, right, with the name of the student and all that in your organization, and then just put it all right there, and then sign off that way. You don't have to have proof of what they're using or which place they're going to or a bill. You don't need any of that.
And Courtney, that's the same form that you're gonna give to Latasha, and it's also the same form that like you're gonna put in the reporting for Yolanda and folks, or is that a different? Are there two forms?
That's the forms that Latasha gave us with the gift cards.
Yeah, I just haven't filled it out yet because but that's a different form. Then we'll also have to record those same gift cards on the form for Yolanda.
Yes.
For the resource.
On the resource list.
On the resource list.
Yeah.
Right.
And the resource list doesn't need signatures.
No.
So that's okay.
I think on the resource list, you can just put yes where it's asked, was there a signature?
Right.
And then as long as you have the form that has a signature that you gave to Latasha, it matches and it's fine.
Totally.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Sounds good.
Latasha,
Thank you.
We already gave out our 6 gift cards. We got all the signatures safely with gloves and the whole bit. But we did just put in under the scenario, please describe the situation.
Oh, yes.
I did too. But it's okay either way, either how Ms. Courtney said it or how you do it, Mr. Terrell. I went in depth on what the story was for the, just the reporting, but it's not required. You don't have to, because it's whatever they needed it for. We could just, make sure we put the card numbers like Ms. Courtney. So either way you guys did it, it's fine.
Great.
Anything is signature and the number.
Yeah. And I apologize that I forgot about that section. Thank you. I did in the scenario section. I did say, I just mean like, even if they're using it for utilities or whatever, you can, fill out the scenario because that helps with data and things like that. Like this family, I would put like, this is a single mother of 7. She's going to use this gift card for groceries. Right. And that was it. Or she's going to use this towards rent or whatever it was, right? But I'm just letting you know you don't need the additional documentation that it asks for on the form for any of those other ones. You can just put them all under the grocery gift card as a U.S. Bank Visa gift card.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so do we want to talk about, and I don't want my voice to be the most prevalent. Like I want to hear from everybody too. Like, what do we want to do with our cohort meetings? How do we want to like make this so that it's the best use of our time, knowing what I explained in the beginning about, what they're expecting of us as a cohort. If anyone else has another understanding of what it is they're expecting, if you want to add to the conversation, but yes, Patricia.
I would definitely open the floor up to anyone's suggestions on it. But for me personally, I don't if we can end the cohort meeting earlier and have less time on this meeting, but we've covered all of the relevant information that we need to get from each other or share with each other, or the questions that have arisen between, you know, the cohort meeting and the next cohort meeting. To me, the purpose of the cohort meeting is to impart information and to take whatever agreement of action steps we need to take. It's not about we have to be here for 2.5 hours or whatever. So that's my input on it. So I'm like, brevity is key to me, but effectiveness is trumps brevity.
Agreed. 100%.
Totally agree. Ms. Courtney set the stage earlier. First of all, Courtney, thank you. Thank you so much for touching bases on all the pieces of the steering committee meeting. And the only thing I was remembering, and Reverend James brought it up, is about the one-on-one to let you guys know it's there for you. If you need help, if you need to reach out, and Assistant Sherry covered that. But the only thing, you know, in the beginning, we were allowed to just do the cohorts how we wanted to and talk about what we wanted to talk about. But it looks like, I guess the time, I guess, depends on how much information was given out in the steering committee. So the steering committee, like our steering committee, this time it was serious and there was a lot of information that you guys really needed to have. And but that's what they're now setting that stage, is like Ms. Courtney already said, we want at least one person from each organization to show up. I won't pretty much be that person hardly anymore. I'm passing it over to my husband to be that person for our cohorts, along with Olivia joining him. But as far as this is concerned, whatever and whoever turn it is, the steering committee business is first on your agenda. So if you have to touch bases with a steering committee person, if you're not that person that has been in the steering committee meeting, just get in touch with one of us. We have a bunch of us in here, and then you'll say, okay, we need at least this amount of time for the meeting. And then you probably could touch bases on some concerns, but we do want to celebrate each other. I'm just going to say, let's talk about those points, let's talk about the roses, so we can help each other. Someone may have the answer among each other. So thank you again, Ms. Courtney. You did an awesome job. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So in closing, Latasha, Fred can pick up on this. We have to select another host for next month's meeting. And also, it was mentioned that maybe there may be an email group list for our cohort. I don't have that list, and I would like to send out this recording to everyone. So is someone privy to that list that can text it to me so I can get the recording to you ASAP?
You know what? I don't have it. Do you have it? Does someone else have a group?
Can you put that on Basecamp?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not everybody goes to base camp, so I thought.
So okay, so I'm just looking at Basecamp right now, and in our cohort we have 33 subscribers. A couple of those are I'm looking at, like, we've got several from our organization. I think it's everybody from each organization. And I just know that, like, for Basecamp, I have 123 notifications right now. So I turned off my emails from it. So I do check it, but it is helpful when we're sending out like Zoom links, or when we're sending out, I think it's helpful to add to a calendar our meetings with a Zoom link to it. So that's why I was suggesting maybe emailing, but I don't know if there's a way to just gather everybody's emails through, I'm not sure, because I don't have everybody's emails.
I do have one thought. If you all would like to take a minute and just go ahead and chat me your emails, I can collect them and then go from there.
Okay.
You need us to pay you, Mr. Terrell.
Yeah, thank you.
Who would like to host next month's meeting?
We can host next month's meeting. Wonderful. Yeah. So next month's meeting is going to be on, well, let me look at the calendar so we all know. Let's see. So next month's meeting would be June 15th. Is that good for everyone?
I'm assuming it's a Monday.
What was that?
Is that a Monday?
It's a Monday. It's the third Monday, June 15th.
Perfect.
Does this time work for people, or does anybody want something sooner?
I wish it could be earlier.
Same.
Same.
Even just like 1 to 3 or 2 to 3 or 3 to, yeah. Or sorry, 2 hours or whatever.
So are we pretty much all in agreement that we'd like it earlier?
Yes, yes.
All right. That works for me
Sweet.
too. Oh,
Somebody
look
have,
at those emails come through. I love it.
okay. Okay, so what time do we want it at? Because I would love for it to be earlier too.
1 to 3.
1 to 3, does that work for people? It's after lunch, it's before dinner. Any
Monday,
opposed? Any opposed from 1 to 3?
Is that on Monday or which day is it?
On Monday, sorry, yes, on Monday. Baron, you have a whole school you're running, right? So
Yeah, I'm usually at school till 3, and I take off from school to 3. But I don't want to ruin it for everybody, so I'll see what I can do my best. 1 to 3, but the school closes at 3, so
Yeah,
I'd have
by
to.
default, you get the recorded meeting notes anyway.
I have the same situation as that we're running a Zoom program until 3 o'clock, but I can squeak away. I can make it happen.
are you guys sure? Because if we need to keep it at 3,
Yeah,
we
should
can.
we keep it?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's only for 1 more month for school. I mean, we're done in June, so.
Yeah, let's keep it because there's too many of them are having classes. It's up to you guys.
Okay.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, we should keep it. It's just 1 month. So.
Okay, we'll keep it. Well, it'll just be next month at 3 to 5. Then that's fine. We want to make sure that we have everybody's able to be here, so
Yeah.
we can do that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll keep it 3 to 5 next month and the 15th. I will send out, if Terrell, if you can send like an email with, you're gonna email this, right, to everybody? Okay, and then I will get that email list and I will send out the meeting invite with the Zoom invite.
Super solid.
Email is Olivia.
What was that?
Okay.
I don't know if, I imagine y'all have done this, but we just created like a Google list, and it was really easy to create a Google listserv for some students instead of having to type in their emails. So I don't know if that's like helpful to just create. It's pretty easy, just like the Google list.
I'm not sure. I've never done that before.
Me neither. I always just go to an old email and copy and paste.
Okay.
That sounds cool though.
I
Sounds
could also
helpful.
try to do it. I'd never done it before, and I just typed in like Google listserv, and it just has you copy down all the emails, create a name, and then you can type in kind of cohort 4 at Google listservs.
Oh, cool.
But we can deal with it next time, or
Okay.
someone else send the emails to.
Okay. Is this everybody that's in our cohort? Not everybody that's in our cohort is in this meeting, are they?
No.
So I think that we can go on Basecamp and we can find additional emails. It's just going to take a minute, but I think that everybody's email is in Basecamp. So if we were to look at all the subscribers, then we could find their emails. I'll
Leanne?
figure it out.
Leanne, when you did the Google list and you sent it out, did it send it out individually to each person, or did it send it out as one massive with everybody's info on it?
That's a good question. I think it said that, because I don't have much practice with it, but I think it just said like, what's your welcome message? So I just said, this is the peer mediation like listserv, and I think everybody got an individual message as I added them, I think. I don't think they like saw each other's emails. I think it was like, you're now part of this listserv.
Right, that's what I was curious as to whether everyone saw each other's emails.
No, I don't think so, but I'm not 100%. I bet you could Google that question. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and I just looked and I might have spoke too soon. I don't see their emails.
So there's also Gmail Teams. Is it Gmail Teams or Google Teams? Microsoft Teams. Yeah. I'm just becoming aware of that. That might be another way to go.
Okay. What if I make a post on Basecamp asking for emails, and then if you are like the only one from your organization here and you have other people who are involved as well, if you could reach out to them and ask them to check Basecamp and post their email?
Question, Courtney, who are we missing?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking. I don't know.
Organization, I think.
Do we have everybody? Okay.
Yeah, I'll make sure we get walkaways.
Okay.
Are they? Okay.
I think that's it. We can remind them.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's all that I have. Thank you, Terrell, for letting me.
Thanks, everyone. You're welcome. That was important. That was valuable. All right, without further ado, I'll be the last one to sign off so I could say the recording and get all the notes. So thank you all for your high participation and contribution. Always makes me feel invigorated. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye. Have a good evening.
These guys are in a hurry.
Bye.
Bye. Oh boy.
Oh man, are we Terrell, are we good for tomorrow morning?
We are good for tomorrow morning at 10:30.
Okay, all right.